Thank you for tuning in once again to his Vine and Fig Tree podcast. My name is Kurt Olson. I'm your host. I'm coming to you on the afternoon of June 25th, 2025. And a few things just to bring to your attention here as we are uh, dealing with kind of the aftermath of the nuke site attacks over the weekend by the United States. And then Monday emerged, and we have a ceasefire that was negotiated between Trump and Israel and Iran. And then they both kind of turned around and kind of did their own thing. And we woke up Tuesday morning to Trump using drop the F bomb and uh, to describe both nations and eventually calm down and whatever. But a couple things here, because some of the some of the things that are now being reported here in the United States, I'm going to address. But before I get to that, it's this: Trump is really setting himself apart from some of the more recent uh, presidents on the foreign policy stage. Um, Biden was weak. Obama was weak. Um, Bush, of course, had the two wars on a credit card on his watch, and certainly not didn't project weakness by any stretch of the imagination, but really the events in Iraq and Afghanistan became a quagmire, and it's one of the things, just one of the things that brought us Obama after Bush, and Bush wasn't able to have a Republican that carried on after him. So, but we're seeing some very Reagan-esque success for Trump here on the foreign stage, and it really just kind of gets to um, he was attacking communism, and he had to have success over a long period of time in saying certain things at home and abroad. He had to get partners involved. For Trump, it's really more of just, I want peace. And the one thing that the U.S. got involved in pretty quickly, and he's just ceasefire, and it happens. And he didn't like the fact that both sides were attempting to undermine him, and if this ceasefire sticks, don't be surprised if Trump gets nominated and potentially even awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for the year. And we're in June, late June right now. But don't be surprised if other things start happening as well on the situation with Hamas and Israel, and there's talks of releasing hostages, and of course he's also looking at Ukraine and Russia. So there's a lot of things happening, and I have been no fan of Donald Trump. Um, I'm one of these people who is basically stuck in the middle, and I find myself getting hit in multiple directions here because there are things that with him I can very much agree with him on, and other things where it's like, okay, why did he say that? What's he trying to achieve there? But this is a home run. This is a home run, and people that are trying to minimize it, like we have the New York Times here in the United States, basically trying to make the case that the nuclear program was set in Iran was set back months, where Team Trump is saying years, and we also have Israel saying years. I'm going to share something in the description to this podcast where the brass of the Israeli military is saying there has been systemic and broad damage to the Iranian nuclear program. So you can be looking for that. It's not very long, but the question becomes, who are you going to believe? The American intelligence community, which hates Trump anyways, or are you going to believe the Israeli military? For me, I'll believe the Iranian, or the Iranian. I'll believe the Israeli military 24/7 over our own intel community, which has earned a fair amount of scorn and condescension over time. Secondly, as all of this stuff involving Iran was heating up, we had immigrations and custom enforcement do an illegal Iranian immigrant raid. And there's a story I'm going to share. It is from the New York Post, but there are other news outlets that have covered this too, that describe um, the the individuals who have been caught in this raid. And we're talking people that easily could have been involved in sleeper cells or part of some network to gain whatever. So take a look at that. Um, there's obviously a lot of very Persian names there, but uh, certainly worth your time. Thirdly, the House Government Oversight Committee had a meeting on Tuesday, and it was in closed door session. And they had a meeting with a woman by the name of Neera Tanden. Neera Tanden was on the Domestic Policy Council for Team Biden. And we learned following that closed door conversation that she was the one running the auto pen. Now, there's the auto pen is an investigation that was done by the Heritage Foundation. They took a look at all of these signatures by Team Biden on documents during his term, some obviously handwritten, others with an auto pen. And questions are becoming, given the cognitive decline of Joe Biden, who 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 had authority and who didn't, who was given the keys to do certain things, and what kind of constitutional authority do they have. So there's those kinds of questions being asked. So um, I'll include that story in the podcast description as well. Fourthly, there was a New York City mayor's primary yesterday for Democrats, and they nominated a guy by the name of Zoran Mamdani. Now, Mamdani is a very unrecognized New York State assemblyman who was more known for being absent in Albany than being present. Um, and he is involved with the Democratic Socialists of America. Now, if you're not familiar with those folks, good for you, because they're communists. The DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, is a communist organization in this country. And anyone who is connected to them, red flags should go up immediately. So this Zoran Mamdani is going to be on the ballot, and there's a few people running as independents, including current Mayor Eric Adams and one or two others. And the independent candidates are going to have a meeting of the minds so that this is a two-person race, Mamdani and whoever. And in reality, it should probably be the incumbent mayor, Eric Adams, who is that person. So, Mamdani wants to do some of the dumbest things policy-wise that would wreck the city. $30 minimum wage, rent freeze. He wants to defund the police. He wants to have government-owned grocery stores. Okay? And there are a number of billionaires that are lining up saying, if this guy becomes the mayor, I'm out. And some of the chatter coming out of New York City is whatever didn't happen during COVID with people fleeing the city, this guy would be the wrecking ball that finished the job. So just when you thought things couldn't have gotten worse in New York City with Bill de Blasio, we have a guy who is a communist. And it's one of those things where, what more does uh, deep blue, navy blue, big cities have to do to understand that Americans don't agree with them? So, anyways, um, that'll be something to watch between now and the election in November to see how that takes shape. Because really, it needs to be a two-person race. Because if it's a three-person race, there's a lot of danger there that you get the Muslim communist Zoran Memdani. Lastly, this is a story that emerged from the Men's College World Series over the weekend. Now, Game 2 of the College World Series between Coastal Carolina and Louisiana State University became kind of a farce with the umpires when the Coastal Carolina manager was questioning three pitches in. Three pitches in, and there's just the helicopter for the hospital there. Three pitches in, he was questioning balls and strikes. He gets ejected. The first base coach gets ejected, and Coastal Carolina went on to lose Game 2 and ultimately the College World Series to Louisiana State University. Controversy erupts following the game when two players, Derek Curiel and Kade Anderson, had songs that would be played when they went up to bat um, weren't played. In Curiel's case, his song was God Is by Kanye West. And a lot of people were suspecting this is just rampant anti-Christian bigotry by the NCAA. But when Kade Anderson also had his song, which is All of the Lights, also by Kanye West, questions emerged. And you come to find out later that uh, the NCAA made decisions on their own to, in one case with Curiel, play the instrumental version of the song and not the lyrics, and the other one be changed. And the NCAA says it's because of the controversy with Kanye West. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Kanye West, who has changed his name to Ye in recent years, Kanye West has had kind of And we I'm going to do a separate podcast at some point, perhaps even with my son, who's a big follower of music, and not necessarily a Kanye fan, but a big follower of music, and getting into this uh, uh, cultural um, celebrity Christian aspect that's kind of going on in our culture in varying ways. Um, but in Kanye West's situation, it's it's been what he's been saying, in some cases even doing. Um, a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric from this guy, which even emerged with a video called "Heil Hitler," and the NCAA didn't want any part of Kanye West being in the College World Series. Now, to their defense, Trump is going against higher ed right now on all things anti-Semitism. Um, but they could have easily have gotten around this and simply said, these are selections picked by the player, not the NCAA, and they could have avoided the controversy and let the kids just have their moment. But of course, the NCAA couldn't let that happen. So those are the things that are emerging this week as stories that grabbed my attention, and you can read in the details to the podcast a few of those stories that I'm going to link there. And once again, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and have a column dropping this weekend. Something very different and more personal, reflection on something related to Independence Day, with that coming up. And until next time, stay vigilant, stay focused, be people, be people who are eternally vigilant, and people who are informed and aware, and people who care about the policy that government brings passes on to people, because ideas have consequences. And until next time, God bless and goodbye.